for Haiti, this is almost impossible to film.
Yeah, really great reporting from the ground, Melissa Bell. Thanks so much for that piece. And joining me now is Ron Vitiello. He's the former acting director of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He was also the chief of the United States Border Patrol in 2017. And Ron, thanks so much for your time. First, I want to get your reaction to what we just heard in Melissa's piece. Obviously, Haitians sent back to a country that's very clearly in upheaval. Look, this is a complicated time. You have the Title 42 public health order that's driving a lot of different things right now. But was this the right call from the Biden administration?
Well, they had to do something. The surge that we saw in Del Rio was caused by people believing that they were going to be able to come into the country, claim asylum, and then be released inside of the United States. And in fact, that was happening probably for most of the year in places like Del Rio and across the southwest border. This group organized and elected all to come in at the same time all at once. And you got to feel for people who are in that situation. Anybody that's been a Border Patrol agent for more than 5 minutes has to come at this job with compassion. You know that when you're encountering someone and that you may have to put them into deportation proceedings, that they're going to go to some pretty terrible places. But refugees and asylees in the United States are granted that status because they're being persecuted for their political beliefs or their religious faith. And you know, Haiti's a terrible place. The governance is horrible. I'm sure it's violent. But that doesn't qualify most people for asylum. If you live in a bad neighborhood, it's bad, and I feel for them, and you have to have compassion for them. But under the law, that's not how it works. You have to show that you're being persecuted for very specific reasons to get asylum in the United States.
Yeah, you know, more broadly, and obviously asylum is a very specific issue and a complex issue, but you know, the chaotic scenes that we saw at the Del Rio International Bridge, you know, including the photos of law enforcement on horseback using what the DHS secretary called aggressive tactics against migrants. We've seen the anger from local and federal officials. Vice President Kamala Harris said this. Take a listen.
Human beings should not be treated that way, and as we all know, it also evoked images of some of the worst moments of our history where that kind of behavior has been used against the indigenous people of our country, has been used against African Americans during times of slavery.
You were with the Border Patrol for more than 3 decades. Was what you saw that sparked the reaction from administration officials, including the DHS secretary? I guess my question is, what did you see there? Is that what agents are trained to do? Was that something that was as horrific as administration officials made it out to be? What's your read on things?
They've overstated it. The president, the vice president, the secretary, the spokesperson at the White House have overstated what happened there. Those agents were given an impossible task. There were almost 10,000 people behind them and thousands more just walking across the Rio Grande River into Del Rio from Ciudad Acuña in an uncontrolled way. They were given the task to try to put some order to that location and try to prevent people from coming in or get people to comply in which line to get in or where to stand or go left or go right. And those agents, you know, I saw the video. We've heard now from the guy who took the video who said he never saw anybody get struck. And so it's been overstated what those agents did. Horse Patrol agents in the Border Patrol are some of the most highly trained agents in the cadre of Border Patrol. And so what we have seen is not usually seen by the public. We have 330 million people in the country. Maybe 500,000 of us have seen a Horse Patrol agent in the performance of their duty. I get it, people aren't used to it, but it certainly wasn't against the law. It certainly wasn't brutal. Now, the secretary has ordered a full investigation of it. I'm just disappointed by some of the people saying that there's going to be consequences before that investigation is over. But I'm quite certain that this investigation will show that they were using the training and tactics that they were given by the organization.
So how you're laying this out actually it brings me to my next question. You know, this is the first time that you've seen an image or a video elicit a visceral response from people when it comes to the border. You know, in 2018, you had the photograph of the small girl in the pink jacket crying as her mother is searched. It became the face of the Trump separation policy. Later that year, women and children were tear gassed at a border fence near Tijuana. In 2019, a father and his 2-year-old daughter were found drowned in the Rio Grande. They were still clutching each other at the time. And I guess the question is, are these images the harsh reality at the border right now? Or is there just something terribly wrong with how policy is being implemented at the moment that leads to these moments?
Well, let's talk a little bit about the policy, but the border has always been a vital place. It's always been a place where agents and officers risk life and limb to protect us all. We have a sovereign border. We have the need and the law to help regulate what goes across that line. And so Border Patrol agents, Customs and Border Protection officers are at the ports of entry, in between the ports of entry, protecting us. And sometimes they face risks. Sometimes the worst case scenario happens to them. Let's talk about the policy. The policy is currently chaos. We had a controlled border in January 19th. And now we don't. Why? Because we took the policy that was allowing people their due process, if they were in fact asylees, to claim that asylum and follow through in the due process in immigration court. But instead of being released to the United States, under that policy, they were required to wait in Mexico. In 2014, when we had a large surge of families and children coming to the border, under the Obama administration, Secretary Jay Johnson asked guys like me, what do we do about this? We put together, ICE specifically put together family residential centers so that people could have their due process. But while they were going through the immigration court system, they were being held. So they weren't being released in the United States. January 20th, they rescinded the migrant protection protocols. Many people are being released now at the border because they have young children or their families with children and children that are coming alone. And so the signal has gone out across the globe. These people from Haiti, unfortunately, were already in the hemisphere. They heard that we weren't going to do deportation flights starting in May of this year. And so they all decided to come. And that's the chaos that you're going to have when the policies don't support control and order at the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yeah, it's certainly chaotic. We've definitely seen that. Ronald, we appreciate your time and perspective, sir. Thanks so much.
Thank you.